So if you're here for my mobile marketing seminar, and we're going to go over how to master mobile marketing. And specifically, I want to talk about 5 mistakes everybody makes and ways that you could avoid them. And these are mistakes that even I still make, but ideally, you make them less and less as you go on. And just so you know, everything I'm going to talk about is from firsthand experience. This isn't just, kind of fluff. This is actually hands-on experience that I've had in the past year and a half. So as you guys already know, if you're here today, you already know mobile's growing. So I'm not really going to get too heavy into this, but just want to highlight a few things. By next year, according to eMarketer, it's going to be a $2.5 billion industry, and I know everybody wants a piece. So I'm here to show you ways you could get started. Like I said, I'm not going to get into how awesome it is and how it's growing and how we're making money, but I'm here to kind of help you jump into the pool, right? I mean, I'm telling you, the water's nice, just jump right in. And you'll be pretty happy if you do. So before I start, I want to just ask a question, just so I know who I'm talking to. How many of you have actually run mobile traffic? Just raise your hands and let me know. Okay, a few of you. And how many of you have a story that goes something like this? I spent $500 and I didn't get a single conversion, so mobile doesn't work. All right, I see the same hands. Well, again, this is the whole point of the talk. That shouldn't happen. And I'll show you exactly the steps that we take to avoid that from happening. So why should you be running mobile for those of you who didn't raise your hands, besides the fact that it's growing? It's a very, very fragmented marketplace. And that's really amazing because it reminds me of the web 5, 10 years ago. So it means there's a lot of opportunities for arbitrage and for affiliates and for inefficiencies to be exploited, basically to make money. In addition, the supply is growing faster than the demand. And for anybody who studied basic economics, that means that the cost of the traffic is a lot less than what it should be in a true market. Basically, people are activating phones, people are browsing more from their phones or mobile devices, but advertisers, like always, are slow to adapt to the changing times, and so the traffic's relatively cheap. Also, there's new opportunities that are coming out that are just exclusive to mobile. So like push notification on Android, SMS marketing. There's new buying platforms that let you do a lot of cool things. And of course, there's also traditional traffic going mobile, as all of you are pretty well aware of Facebook allowing advertisers to market on mobile. So you're looking at me and you're thinking, all right, why is this guy talking here? I never heard of him. Why is he here? So basically, I have 5 years experience in direct response, so I do know what I'm talking about. I've been doing mobile exclusively. I dropped everything else to do mobile, and I've been doing it exclusively for a year and a half. So I do know mobile. I also released a guide, a 14-day mobile mastery guide that's been proven to help affiliates learn how to run mobile, how to optimize, and how to make profit. I also own a mobile CPA network. I built a mobile tracking platform because I know how important it is for mobile. And the other thing is, unlike a lot of people you're here, I'm not here just to talk about apps. I think the mobile ecospace is a lot bigger than just apps. So I'm going to go over things that are way beyond that. So now we're going to jump into the mistakes that people make. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is using outdated strategies. Mobile is a completely unique traffic source. It's not like search. It's not like Facebook. It's its own animal. So if you were to, this is a common thing that I've seen happen all the time. A lot of search guys, when Facebook came out, took their search strategies and put them on Facebook. They did their keyword research for Facebook like they did for search. It doesn't make sense. Nobody puts auto insurance as their interest on Facebook, right? And the same thing with mobile. People are coming in with whatever they're good with, whether it's search, social, display, PPV, and take those tactics and put them on mobile. It's just not going to work. So you have to come in with a fresh approach. In fact, the most successful guys I've seen in the space are people who are brand new to direct response, brand new to affiliate marketing, brand new to mobile marketing, and they come in with fresh perspective and they're able to develop strategies without having the hang-ups of, oh, this worked in the past. This works on email marketing. It has to work on mobile. And they're able to optimize. The other thing with mobile is you have to consider things that are only specific to mobile. And the best way to illustrate that is I came up with a concept called 3D marketing for mobile. I'll just show you what that looks like. So in the first chart here on the left, or graph, this describes most traditional traffic sources. You're only considering 2 things. You're considering your placement which is going to be, if it's search, the keywords, if it's Facebook, the demo, if it's display, the sites you appear on, and your creative assets, which are your landing pages, your copy, your ads. The combination of the two will yield you the results you're looking for, whether it's profit, volume, whatever. In mobile, you still have those two axes, I guess, that you have to look at. But then you have this third axis that if you forget, I mean, that's how you run into that situation where you drop $500, don't get a single conversion. You have to consider the carrier, the handset, the platform, and all these other variables unique just to mobile. Here I'm going to outline the ones that I found to be the most impactful on your campaigns and the ones that make the biggest difference. I also showed a kind of Venn diagram to illustrate even further. It's the combination of these variables that is going to get you the results you want. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is carrier or telco. This is huge. I mean, this could really make or break your campaign. So the first thing is if you're buying Wi-Fi traffic is every carrier. It's like run a network, and it's very hard to get any learnings out of it. But let me explain to you how carrier works and why it's so important. Carrier is basically a proxy for demographic. For example, I don't know if any of you have been to a Metro Boost PCS, type store versus a Verizon store, but I have because this is my business and what I do. But those users are very, very, very different from one another. So if you're going to be targeting a Verizon user, you could expect a certain type of result versus a Metro PCS user. So you have to consider the carriers. The next is the platform or operating system. So Android versus iOS. Very different people. Android phones are a lot cheaper. iOS tend to be a little bit more expensive. There's only certain carriers that have them. Again, the demographics are going to be completely different. So you have to segment that traffic and see what works. And just a really obvious, blunt example is BlackBerry as a platform. If you're going to target BlackBerry, I mean, these are business professionals. If you just look at the demographics of BlackBerry users, it's a very specific demographic. And just so you know, BlackBerry traffic is very cheap because people have a hard time monetizing, because most people who have BlackBerries don't fall for direct response. But if you have a B2B, maybe it's a good place to start. The other thing is the actual device itself, kind of. So like a tablet versus a phone. I mean, the thing is merging more and more. Like if any of you have seen the Note, it's like a brick, kind of looks like a smaller iPad. But the idea is you still want to segment because a phone is going to have capabilities that a tablet can't, like being able to make phone calls, receive SMS. So you still have to consider it. And of course, the actual device itself. So especially with the new phones that are coming out, they're targeted for specific users. There's phones that come out and it's like, all right, we want 18 to 25-year-old girls. And guess what? Like that's most of the people who get that phone. And by targeting it, you basically get those users. So if your offer applies to those users, it's a real easy way to target them. And the other thing is app versus WAP. And I'll go into this in one of my mistakes further. But just for now, keep in mind that app traffic is very different from mobile web traffic. All right, so now I'm going to talk about mistake number 2. And this is more on advertisers, but advertiser side, but affiliates and everybody else does this too. They evaluate quality too soon. So for those of you who spent the $500 and had no conversions, I'm going to guess you kind of looked at the data, couldn't make sense of it, and just said, quality's terrible, mobile traffic's terrible. That's not true. Almost all the advertisers we work with like the quality after we talk them through what they should be looking at. So for example, quality could vary dramatically according to some of these parameters. App traffic, I mean, it's mostly gaming. So the user engagement there is going to be a lot lower than mobile web. Third-tier carriers, like I mentioned, some of these carriers, like Metro, Boost, Cricket, the users are the subprime users. So for example, a lot of lead gens that we do in the subprime market, we just target those carriers, and they love the quality. Prepaid phones, again, similarly, if you have a plan, you tend to be a certain demographic than if you're doing the prepaid phones. The prepaid phones still convert, but you just have to consider the offer. And of course, mobile search. Mobile search, the traffic could be outstanding. So if you haven't tried it, for certain offers, it's going to do really well. So how can you improve the quality? This is the other huge issue that I find with advertisers. They take their email follow-up, campaigns, whatever, like we're going to capture information, blast them with emails, and make money off of it. But what they don't realize is somebody filled out the offer on the phone, they're probably going to want to interact with the offer on the phone as well. So if you do an email follow-up or anything like that, and it's not mobile formatted, you're losing out. The other thing is you have to use these tools that mobile phones allow you to do in order to increase the quality. So for example, when you capture that lead, why not do an SMS follow-up and just say, thanks for submitting your information, and have another touch point. Another thing, click to call. When I see a mobile offer that forces you to dial the number, that's crazy. Why not just have a button for them to click and just dial right from their phone. Geolocation, again, really powerful. Mobile phones, especially when they have GPS enabled, I mean, you can pinpoint where that user is. Like, why not offer them something special based on their location? And also phone lookup. Again, there's so much technology now, and on mobile devices, nobody likes filling out long forms. Nobody. I'm not saying they don't convert. One of our best offers was a long form, but people don't like filling it out. So if you could supplement that data by grabbing it from the user agent and available services like Rapidly, for example, just grab as much data as you can to help the user not fill out a million forms and a million fields. Before I jump into the next big mistake, so this is what people think of mobile. They think like smartphones, right? And this is a feature phone trying to be a smartphone, trying to have a camera and memory. But this is the big mistake. It's focusing just on smartphones. I already talked about this a little bit, but according to Pew Research and everything you see, all the publications, smartphones are growing. They're 50% of the market. But I'm a pessimist, so I always look at the negative side of things, and I think, okay, well that means 50% of the market is feature phones, and that's in the U.S. So 50% of people are still using basically web-enabled phones that just have the ability to access the internet. There's not touch, there's no apps, they're just internet phones. And that blew my mind, so I started marketing there, and to this day, feature phones are probably 60% of our business because they do great. Everybody's jockeying for, for smartphones, but feature phones are wide open. So I want you to start considering feature phones, especially if you have lead gen or anything like that. Obviously, if you're an app developer, this doesn't apply to you, but for everybody else it does. The other thing is with international. So feature phones penetration is way higher internationally. So if you're an advertiser or you're advertising internationally, you have to consider that. Like, forget smartphones because except for a few countries, the feature phone penetration is way higher. In addition, I want to make a side note about international markets. For many international markets, their feature phone is their first access to the internet. They don't have laptops, they don't have computers, but they have a phone that could go on the internet. It's a big deal to them. So it's a very powerful medium, and you have to use it correctly, and you just have to go after it. But if you're thinking smartphones, you're going to miss all those users. And then the other thing I want to point out, there's more than just smartphones. There's tablets, there's new devices that are coming out constantly. You want to look at them. I mean, they definitely do well. iPad, Kindle, Galaxy Tab, all these new devices are coming out. I always try to market at them as soon as I find out they sold a certain number to see how they're going to perform. All right, so let's talk about the next mistake, and that is mistake number 4, and not using mobile tracking. We, in direct response, know how important data is, but it's shocking to me for mobile how often people just use whatever they've already used in the past to track mobile. I mean, it just blows my mind. You have to use a third-party tracking solution. So let me just tell you some of the issues with mobile tracking. Even if you're buying from an ad network, I don't trust their data because I don't know what database they're using. I don't know, there's no real standardization as to what is what. I mean, if anyone just traditional web remembers, I mean, even geo lookup, based on IP isn't perfect. So imagine doing that with phones. I mean, there's no standardization. The user agent data doesn't come in the same, so you have to match it to a database. What database do you use? Do you use the free one? Do you use one of the paid ones? They're all going to give you different data. So you have to use a third party to kind of just look at all your different channels and have a central place to at least standardize your data so you could look at it more efficiently. And this is huge. Honestly, it's made the biggest difference to our business. And just some of the solutions out there to get you started, Piwik Mobile has a good solution. Google Analytics, their mobile, has a few good solutions. The tracker we built, obviously, was built for direct response. Bango, WebTrends, they're all coming out with mobile solutions, and you have to integrate that and look at that data, because I already explained to you how important those different variables are, and if you're not looking at them, you're kind of wasting your money. And one of the other big things, just a tip on the side, when you're buying media, mobile media, if you know this campaign performs on a certain set of targeting and you buy it, you're often not going to get it, because I don't know if the ad networks are sneaky or what, but they'll try to sneak you stuff you didn't ask for. And by having a third-party tracker, you're able to say, look, I didn't ask for this, I'm not paying. And sometimes as much as 40% of the traffic is just not what you asked. Like a simple thing in Canada, we were buying Rogers. I asked for Rogers Wireless. They sent me Rogers Wireless and Rogers Cable. I didn't want the Wi-Fi like the cable network. I wanted just wireless. So, it was a big deal, and we got 50% of our ad spend back. All right, so mistake number 5 is not diversifying. Again, for the people who tested, you probably tested on 1, maybe 2 traffic sources. I'm here to tell you that there is no major player in mobile, which is great from the traffic side. There's not one dominant player, and it's not AdMob. You know, AdMob's just apps, and I told you 50% is feature phones, right? So each network has strengths and weaknesses, and you want to work with as many as you can. For example, some networks are very strong internationally. Some are very strong with apps. Some are stronger with mobile web. Some are emerging traffic, you know, like I talked about again, push, icon, interstitials, incentivized traffic. Some have premium inventory, so you have to get to know the different networks, and you have to work with all of them. In addition, mobile publishers are a lot more savvy than web publishers. What does that mean? They're using mediation layers like MobPub, AdTwirl to basically rotate all the different ad networks. So if you're not working with all the different ad networks, you might be losing out on a lot of the traffic. And they always move it. You know, they're always moving who they're working with and which ad network they're allocating their inventory to. So one day you'll be running a campaign. If you're stuck with one network, you could see it dry up and some of the best placements are gone, and you won't know how to get them back. And the best way to do it is just to work with as many networks as you can. And the other thing is, if you learn what works, you can just take that same targeting and move it to a new network, and more often than not, it's going to back out pretty well for you. So, I mean, that's the key. You know, if you work with many networks, it's easy to scale because you just learn, okay, this worked here, just take that targeting, move it over, and in theory, it should work. And 9 out of 10 times it does. So again, I'm just going to do a quick summary here of the different mistakes and how to address them. Mistake number 1, using outdated strategies. Approach mobile from a fresh perspective, you're going to be much better off. Mistake number 2, evaluating quality. You know, quality is going to be different on mobile, but you have to approach it differently and look at different metrics and adjust your campaigns to get the results you want. Don't give up. You can get good quality out of mobile, it's just how you market. Mistake number 3 is not focusing on feature phones. You have to look at feature phones. Mistake number 4, not tracking, obviously, I mean, in direct response, but you have to track mobile-specific variables. And mistake number 5 is not diversifying your traffic. But wait, there's going to be a few more slides, so bear with me. So these are bonus slides because I realized I'm going to be talking for an hour, and I'd rather do a question and answer segment, but I find that if I go through these 2 slides, it answers a lot of the questions. So one of the biggest questions I get is everything, you know, like what works on mobile, like what have you had success with? And I'll tell you the truth, everything works on mobile. Everything I've ever ran on mobile, I could get it to work to some extent. The question is scale. So I've had premium SMS campaigns work, lead gen work, including long form. A long form that asks for a social security number. Never in a million years would I think people would fill that out on their phone. Tested it, it converted great. App downloads, obviously. Pay-per-call, if you run that on search, you know, there's a good chance you'll have success. And you know, I didn't put it in here because I didn't want to kind of put it in the slide, but since you guys are here and came out to see me, I'll tell you the truth. You could get people to fill out credit cards on their mobile phones pretty easily. I've run, you know, freemium type credit card submit offers on mobile, and it works. So you can get people to take out their credit card while they're on their phone and fill it out. So what's my checklist for evaluating what to run on mobile? And this is for affiliates and some advertisers as well, because the other question is that I get from advertisers, you know, we have an app, you know, that connects like rugby players, blah, blah, blah. As soon as they say that, I'm like, all right, I'm not interested, because you need to meet these 3 checklists in order to have success on mobile. The first one is, does this offer appeal to 1 in 100 people? If there's 100 people, like just random people in the room, and not one would be interested, it's going to be hard to make it work. It just is. And the same on display, it's just, you know, it's tough. Does the offer function properly on the phone? A lot of times we'll get offers, you know, oh, we made a mobile formatted page. I look at it, test it on a few phones. It's awful. So real important, you have to hire a professional and make sure that the page is going to function properly. The next is tracking. Again, I talked about how important it is. With mobile, I highly recommend server-to-server tracking. This is the cookieless post-back tracking technology. A lot of the new networks use it, and a lot of the ad networks use it, which makes it even easier to integrate. And I highly recommend it. The reason being, iframes don't always function properly, especially in app environments. you know, for cookies, JavaScript cookies, they don't fire properly, especially with feature phones. So you don't want to lose conversions, lose data because you're not using the latest technology. So I highly recommend server-to-server tracking. And also I'm going to talk about a few tricks. These are 5 tricks that if you don't get anything out of this talk, but you do these 5 things, you're not going to spend $500 with 0 conversions. It's just not going to happen. So the first one is block Wi-Fi. By blocking Wi-Fi, you're going to get more data about the carriers, and you'll see like, oh my God, AT&T works great. But if you're running Wi-Fi, most of your traffic that's going to come in is going to be Wi-Fi. The other thing is these different variables I talked about affect pricing. So if you set a campaign up, and let's say you're bidding 5 cents a click, most of it is going to be Wi-Fi unless you block it. The reason being, it's a lot cheaper. It's much harder to optimize. There's not data in there. So you're going to get a lot of Wi-Fi, and it's just going to be really hard to kind of see what works. Next thing is block app traffic. Click fraud on mobile is rampant, but it's way more rampant on apps. So, you know, block it. Just while testing. I'm not saying you can't make it work on apps. We do. But it just takes a lot more effort to make it work with apps because you have to block what's not working. Next thing is track site IDs or placements. Most good ad networks are semi-blind where, yeah, they're blind. They're not going to tell you where your ads are shown, but they'll tell you the site ID and, you know, just some random number. And you have to track that if you can. Oftentimes, if you ask them, they'll have a way to track it and track those placements because that's going to make or break your campaign. Oftentimes, we'll buy traffic, and I'm sure for all of you who spent that $500, if you were tracking the site IDs, you'd find 60%, 70% of your traffic came from one site ID. So if you block it, you know, you could quickly get the campaign to start working. Next thing is focus on high CTR first. This is for the creative. Click-through rate is everything, especially in direct response. It really helps you get volume. It helps you get more data. So work with creatives are going to get high click-through rates. And then the last one is also critical. Watch your redirect speeds. On mobile, especially when people aren't using Wi-Fi, it's much slower. So what's going to happen is for every millisecond that your page loads slow, your images load slow, your tracking loads slow, anything that gets in the way of the load time, you're going to lose that user. So I get a lot of comments like, oh, there's a lot of click discrepancy. There is, and that's because the page never loaded. So, you know, the ad network said, I sent you 100 clicks, you know, your tracker showed 70, and the reason for that is after the user clicked, you know, it took forever to load, so the user just hit the back button. And, you know, the way to avoid that is just to make sure things are as fast as possible. So that's it for my slides. And now I'm going to do the question and answer. So if anybody has any questions, raise your hand. Take them one at a time. No questions, all right. Yeah.
What's the average kind of product price you're selling on MobAff?
For,
say, $100
well, no. So when I was talking, again, so if you're selling a product, that's going to be different, right? Like I'm in direct response, so a lot of stuff we do is like lead gen, premium SMS. For the credit card transaction that we did, it was a free trial, so it was $5.99 or whatever that the user had to pay, and then they get billed, you know, a month after that. So in terms of selling actual products that cost like big money, you could do it, but it's going to be tough in direct response just like it is on display. You know, like you don't see a lot of campaigns for display for a product where you have to whip out your credit card and buy a $100 product. I mean, if you have a free trial version of it, it could work, but otherwise it's just going to be a lot of work to get it to work. Any other questions? Yes, Phoenix.
What sort of tracking technology have you found best with the iOS, since they have some serious issues with cookies?
Server to server.
Server to server.
Yeah. Server to server, it's the best for mobile. Yep.
Are there any specific markets that are growing faster in that? I know gaming is really big, but is there any specific types of audiences that or things people are looking for that's growing faster in mobile?
So the question is, what's growing faster in mobile? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that question. I just see it all growing at the same time, and it's changing all the time. Is gaming growing right now? Yes. And I think it's just fueled by VCs and companies trying to get in the space, so they're just flooding the market with a lot of cash. So, you know, their CPAs are probably inflated. Ad networks are making money off of it. Everyone's making money off gaming, but that's just, you know, it's going to fizzle out eventually. At the end of the day, you just have to be diversified, which is the thing I talked about. So, you know, we do run gaming, but we don't exclusively run gaming. And same with anything that we run. We try to run as many things as we can in order to adjust as regulations change, as offers change, as traffic sources change. Like, for example, especially on that emerging front of the, and I want you guys to consider this, on the emerging front of new traffic, there's a lot of exciting things going on, but the problem is, like SMS, for example, you know, the laws and everything aren't crystal clear. So there's people pushing it, you know, and there's people who love, you know, living on the line, but new regulation comes out, you have to adjust. So people who are just completely relying on being on the line and aren't getting ready for when things do get harder, you know, they're gonna be in a bad place. And to me, SMS is kind of like email. You know, back in the day, you just blast people with emails, no worries, and then all these regulations came out. Same thing with SMS. It's gonna get tougher, and those guys need to start paying attention. Any other questions? All right, thanks a lot for attending. I'll be around the show, so if you want to stop by, say hi. I appreciate it.